Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. All right. Welcome everyone to another edition of Torah Study with Rabbi P at the J. Okay, we're at the JCC in sunny Southern California, Long Beach, California. I want to welcome everybody, especially my dear friends that are here with us. Give us a nice hello. Hello. Okay, there you go. There you go. All right, so today, good news is today we are going to be at the last segment of the Jacobson family. Okay, this has been a saga that we've been dealing with for the past couple of weeks, how the Jacobsons are getting along with each other. Next week we have a brand new hero that we're going to introduce. You don't know much about him, but I'll give you a little preview. His name is Moses, but we'll talk about him next week. Today we have to finish up the Jacobsons. Okay, so last we had was Joseph was now the viceroy of Egypt. I mean, it was a quick turnaround. I mean, from 2 minutes he was a convict. Next thing you know, that afternoon, he's wearing royal garbs and he's the head of Egypt. I'm not sure myself. When I figure out where I want to start, then I'll let you know. But I don't know. But a good start would be if you want to go to the page 250. You can start in probably 250 in Vayigash, because what happened was that Joseph now has 7 years of tremendous good fortune in Egypt. A lot of grain. Joseph gathers all the grain, stores it, because he's a smart guy. And then the 7 years end and the 7 years of famine come in. Everybody comes in and starts to buy grain from Egypt, including the brothers. Now the brothers show up and Joseph recognizes them, and then he remembers his dreams. And you remember the dream that Joseph had, that he was going to be lording over them, and he thinks to himself, well, look at this here. Here I am. Okay, they were laughing at me back then, but now I'm king of the hill, right? So he deals very, very, very tough with his brothers. He accuses them of being spies, and they say, what are you talking about, spies? Why would we be spies? We're innocent people. All we want to do is a little business over here. Make a long story short, Joseph says, you're spies, and the only way I believe you that you're not spies is if you bring your little brother here, because they said they had a little brother, and then he couldn't come because his father was very attached to him. You bring your little brother here, and then I'll believe you that you're not spies. And he takes Shimon, one of the brothers, and puts him into prison for a couple of days, because he wants to separate these two, Levi and Shimon, because he knows that the two of them are nitroglycerin. You put them together, it's bing, bang, boom. So he doesn't want any trouble, separates them. Shimon ends up in prison. They go back home, and they find their money is in the wallet, in their purses. They go, okay, something strange is going on here, and they start to have recriminations about themselves. You see, finally God is paying us back for what we did to our brother Joseph. And Joseph hears this, that they're talking among each other, how regretful they are, and he leaves the room, he cries. Anyways, fine, they go. They tell their father, we can't go back to Egypt unless Benjamin is with us. Father refuses, and then Judah stands up and says, listen, I'm going to take responsibility. Let's not make a big tzimis out of this. Let's not make a big deal. Let's just go down. We'll get the wheat. We'll introduce the brother, and everybody will be happy, and we'll move on. Reluctantly, because Jacob is attached to Benjamin more now than ever, because he has no Joseph and he has no Rachel. His last remembrance of Rachel is through this son of Benjamin. He reluctantly lets him go. Okay, go. But Judah says, I'm taking responsibility. Okay. Goes down there. Joseph sees them. Still is not nice to them. Very harsh. Okay, the brother, fine. Okay, good. All right. Okay. Sells them a little wheat. And then what he does is, of course, something nefarious. He tells one of his servants to take the golden goblet that he has, his goblet, and put it in the youngest one's basket, his saddlebag. Anyways, long story short, they arrest him. They come, the brothers, they arrest him. They say, someone stole the goblet. The brothers say, what are you, stole the goblet? Why would we steal a goblet? We need a goblet. We have all the goblets at home. Plenty of goblets. We don't need the goblet. Now you stole the goblet. And they check it out. And whose backpack do they have the goblet in? None other than Benjamin's goblet. So they come back to the palace, and Joseph says to them, you know what, why don't you guys go home, and Benjamin is going to stay here as my servant. Okay. And here's where the big showdown happens. It's like high noon at the OK Corral. Okay? Because now is going to be the showdown, like I had mentioned. If you look at Facebook, my little teaser was the big showdown, Judah versus Joseph. Okay? And Judah then gets up there and says like this, okay, look. Let's be honest. You never treated us fairly. People here, thousands of people came to buy food from you. You didn't ask them any questions. They weighed their stuff, they paid, they took their stuff, and they went home. Okay? With us, you treated completely differently. We came here. What did we want to marry your daughter? Why you start asking us personal questions? When a guy does a real estate deal, you care how many children the guy has. What's the business? You signed the deal, you paid the money, you go home, like you did with everybody else. Already, in the beginning, you treated us unfairly. You said unfairly. You said to us, who are you? What are you? You have a father, you have a mother, you have this, that. Whose business is this? We weren't coming here to socialize with you. We were coming here to do business, and we want business done. No. You said no. So then you tricked us. You put the money back into our things, and then you forced us to bring our youngest brother, who you knew, who we told you is very attached to the father, but you didn't care. You heartless guy. You did not care. So you forced us to bring Benjamin back, something that could kill our father. But nonetheless, so we brought him. We did. We stood up there. And now you did something else. You tricked him by putting this goblet into his thing. And now you said, is this fair? What kind of a person are you? So Joseph says to him, okay, yeah. He says, yeah, very nice speech. Very nice. Wonderful speech. I'm so overwhelmed by your caring. So first of all, why should you care more than your brothers? So Judah says, because I took responsibility. All my brothers, they didn't, but I put responsibility to my father, and I'm not leaving without him, regardless of what. So Joseph says to him, now, you have to understand that in the Torah itself, there's two parts. There's the written tradition and there's the oral tradition. The written tradition is what we have here, what we call the 5 books of Moses. Everything else is oral. So what I'm saying to you now is I'm paraphrasing from the Medrash. That the Medrash gives us kind of a background behind the scenes to what happened. So Joseph says to him, okay, look, Musa, first of all, you calm down. You made this wonderful speech about being fair and being honest and being righteous and being upright. I know you, who you are, Judah. I know you come over here and you put on this mantle of righteousness. Not like, I see with my goblet I've divined that first of all, you have older brothers, so you shouldn't even speaking in the first place. So Judah interrupts him and says, okay, gives him the reason why he's doing. And second of all, I know what you did. Years ago you had another brother, right? You had another brother, didn't you? Maybe. No. You had another brother, and you didn't like this other brother. So what did you do to your other brother? You threw him in a pit, didn't you? Throw him in a pit. I don't know. I plead the fifth, or as more often than not, it was a long time ago. I don't remember. I can't remember. Oh no. So let me bring you up to speed of what happened. I could see what happened. You threw the brother into the pit, right? And what did the brother do? What was the brother saying? Oh, please, he begged you. He pleaded with you to take him out of the pit. And what did you say? What did you say, Judah? Big Judah now, big Mr. Defender. You said, nah, let's get rid of him. Let's sell him. How much? $20. You sold your brother for $20. Okay? $20. You sold your brother. Now you stand in front of me here today, telling me I'm not righteous. What about you? You also have a black spot on your resume. You know what? So do me a favor. Do me a favor. Go back to your father and tell him that the rope followed the pail. What does he mean by the rope followed the pail? The Medrash uses this example. So when you have a well, okay, and you want to get the water out of the well, what do? You get a pail and you let the rope down with the pail, right? Now, what are you supposed to do with the rope? Hold on to it, right? You hold on to the rope because otherwise you're not going to get the pail. You tell your father first went the pail, which was Joseph, and then the rope followed the pail. Means, you know what? Benjamin went the same way that Joseph went. You did it the first time, right? So do it again now. Tell your father, the rope followed the pail. When Judah heard that Joseph is telling him that he's going to now go back to the father and say to him, you know what, I did it again, that, I messed up the second time, this he couldn't take anymore. And then he started to say, look. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to end well for both of us, Judah tells him, because you're getting me angry, and when I get angry, I lose myself, and who knows what could happen. And and he starts to plead, and again, straight gives over this. At some point in this discussion, Joseph is overwhelmed by Judah's resolve, and he sees that Judah is pleading is sincere, not that he's just going to get out of it. Joseph says, okay, dayenu. He says, it's enough already. So he tells everybody, please do me a favor, everybody here in this room, please go out. I mean it, everybody please go out. I mean, I want everybody in the room to please go out. I mean, this is a confession. So all the Egyptians leave the room, and only their brothers are there. Joseph says to the brothers, okay, I'm going to say something to you that may shock you, so you better sit down. I'm Joseph. Yeah, he's Joseph. Yeah, it's Joseph. Well, what are you talking about? No. I'm Joseph, your brother, and the whole thing is crazy. I understand the whole thing is crazy. You guys sold me down, and they respond by saying, no, it can't be. We sold him. He was a kid, 17 years old. Now we come in here. This is the guy that's running Egypt. How is it possible? So Joseph draws them closer by, and he shows them, first of all, number one, the whole time he was speaking through an interpreter, meaning that Judah was speaking Hebrew, and he was responding in Egyptian. So went back and forth. Now once the charade was over, he started to speak Hebrew to them, and he showed them that he had a bris, which the Egyptians didn't have. Showed them he had a bris, so he's Jewish. And then he showed them, I will prove it to you. When you go down to your father, you take these wagons with you, because in the Medrash it says that the day that Joseph left home, he was studying. There's certain laws that have to do with called the egla rufa, with an animal you have to break its neck. Egla and agola are the same words, the calf and the wagon. So my father is going to realize that this is me. And he starts to tell them things, and all of a sudden they go, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe it, it's Joseph. I mean, and then he asks him, Oid Yosef Chai. Oid Avinu Chai. Is our father still alive? Now, why does he ask him that when he reveals himself? Because he had told them the whole time. He thought that they were lying, they were lying when the father was alive to deflect, because they didn't want him to talk about the brother. So they said, no, dad's alive, he's okay, he's been mourning you all these years, but okay, fine. They're freaked out because wouldn't you be? I mean, this is 22 years later. They hadn't seen their brother Joseph, but the emotions that were going through their heart was at one time overwhelming gratitude that Joseph is alive. Number two, that Joseph did well, but the embarrassment, the humiliation that Joseph did to them, they were still overcome. So they come down to their father and they said, get great news. Joseph is alive, and not only is alive, but he's, so go. So Jacob is afraid of one thing. He's afraid of one thing. First of all, he can't believe them. You know why you can't believe them? Because first of all, the greatest punishment for a liar is that they're never believed, right? You're never believed. So if you're a liar and you're a deceiver, no one is ever going to believe you. So he doesn't believe them. But then they show him the wagon, so he kind of believes them. And then he asks them, "Is Joseph still alive?" What does he mean? Is Joseph still alive? I just told you that he's alive. I don't mean is he living. I understand that he's, what he's eating and he's this and he got married, but is he still Jewish? Is he still Jewish? I mean, because, let's be honest, if you're there and you're in Egypt and you're a viceroy and you have all of this honor and you're up there, what's the easiest thing to forget? The Judaism, right? Because assimilation, I mean, we don't have to go far than the United States of America. Right? Look, in America, you want to get up there. One of the things is, how do you succeed here in America? You think Yiddish and dress British. Right? Somewhere like that. You think Yiddish and you dress British. Meaning you look like everybody else. If you have the long payas and the blah, you're not going to make it in Washington. In Washington, they want you to look the part. nice, shaven, tie, shmai, bye, whatever you have to wear. Okay? So the first thing Jacob is worried about is he had completely assimilated, that he forgot who he was, and this was Joseph, so his son says, no, don't worry, he still has tzitzis, don't worry, he's still wearing this, of course, I'm just saying that, he's wearing tzitzis, he has a yarmulke, don't worry, he has payas, the guy is so religious, you can't believe how religious he is, so finally, Jacob calms down, and then they all, incredibly, they all come down to Egypt, and and Joseph says, bring him down, because we're all going to be one family together, and all happily, and that's exactly what I felt like too, okay, when I first heard this story, so now the brothers are okay with Joseph and Jacob, and the whole family is reunited down in Egypt. Jacob is a little afraid to go. He doesn't really want to leave the land of Israel. It's not Israel yet, it's Canaan. But God tells him, listen, I'm telling you, go down, and I promise you I'm going to be there with you, and everything is going to be A-okay. Because remember that Jacob's main concern here is that he holds on to the covenant. And the covenant has to pass through. And in Israel, it's easy. Because, you're separated, you live in your own little town, but now you're coming to a big metropolis, you're coming to Egypt, you're going to start going into Egypt and hanging out with the Egyptians. Who knows what's going to happen over there? Could completely assimilate, and this whole thing that we've been dragging from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob is going to be completely finished. And he's worried about that. So he sends Judah beforehand to arrange, it says that he's arranging a yeshiva, a day school, whatever that means. He's arranging a place for Jacob to be able to live, and Jacob comes down there. And so far, they all live happily ever after. All right? They live happily ever after. The sons are together. And as I explained last week, that the last portion of this of the section means Vayechi. If you look at the last section last week, Vayechi, that Jacob lived for 17 years, in Egypt. And the commentators say that these were the best years of his life. How could they be the best years of his life? How could it possibly be the best years of life living in Egypt? I mean, a man moved from Israel to Egypt. Egypt is ervas haaretz. Egypt is like the worst place to live. It is so corrupt. Remember when Abraham first came to Egypt? What did he tell Sarah? First thing before they crossed into the border, she has to lie, right? She has to lie. Why should Sarah lie when you're coming over the border? First of all, they tell you here, if you come into the United States, don't lie. Tell them the truth here. You're right at the border. Why should you lie? Because the Egyptians were corrupt. They'll see the beauty of Sarah, and they're gonna steal her and kill Abraham. What kind of a country is this? A crazy country. Same thing is true when God told Isaac, don't go down to Egypt. So now you're saying that the best years of his life he lived in. So there's two reasons that commentaries give why Jacob lived his best 17 years. Number one, he could exhale now. I mean, look at this guy's life. First of all, he had to live with his brother Esau for the first part of his life. So his brother Esau, you could imagine, he was the talk of the town. He was a hunter. He was a gatherer. He had a big personality. He went out there. The father loved him. He was a great chef. He knew how to do everything. What was Jacob? A mama's boy. Right? Who loved Jacob? His mother. He was mama's boy. He sat home with her, and they talked together, played gin rummy. Who knows? What they did. But he was not the personality that Esau was, okay? Now, even though in the Torah they make Esau into this villain, but you can imagine he had a big personality. I mean, the man was red, with a red beard or whatever it was, a great archer and a swordsman. Ooh, ha, ha. You know what? He would talk in the town. He had to live with his brother. 2 times he had to deceive his brother until his brother swore that he's going to do what? Kill him. Okay. So he's going to kill him. So he had to leave home. Had to leave his beloved mother. Had to leave home. You know how hard that is? I don't know if you have children living at home, especially when you're 63 years old, which Jacob was. It says he was 63 at the time. He had to leave home. I mean, you can imagine what kind of a feeling that is. Finally, on his own for the first time in his life, he comes to his uncle's house. He falls in love with Rachel. So what does his father-in-law do? Again, deceives him. He's supposed to marry Rachel, marry Leah, marry Rachel, marry Bilhah, marry Zilpah, and the whole time while he's there, his father-in-law is tricking him, one thing after another. One episode after another. He had hardly any peace in his life. Finally, he leaves his father-in-law's house. What happens? Dinah. Remember what happened with Dinah? Then his sons killed the whole town. Again, Cyrus. Then he finally settles down. He thinks he can exhale. And finally he's living together. What happens? Joseph's story. Then the whole story for now 22 years he's mourning Joseph. Now finally, that's all I have. Okay. I mean, there he is, he's finally at the end of his life, finally he can exhale. He has everybody there and and his family is together and that's it. So you could imagine, first of all, it's a great lesson in life to know that, you know what? Don't give up. No matter where you are in life, don't give up, because like I told you once about this lady that came to the rabbi and she said to him, I've told the story before, Rabbi, I'm getting up in age and I want to talk to you about a few things. Number one, I'd like you to do my funeral, which happens to me from time to time. People say that. Then I say, I'm not rushing, don't worry. The only way, if you want me to rush, is you say to me, Rabbi, I put you in my will. Then you're in trouble. Then you're in terrible trouble. So don't tell me that. Say, oh, Rabbi, you're in our will. Don't say that to me. Give the money while you're still alive. So, she comes to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, I want you to do my funeral, but I need you to do me one favor. What's that? Before you put me into the ground, I'd like you to take a little spoon and put it in my coffin. I want to be buried with a little spoon. The rabbi says, look. I've heard a number of different requests. I've heard people say, you know what, put pictures in, put a phone in, just in case, you never know. Let's say, I start breathing again, make a phone call, put in a favorite shirt. Wait. But I never heard a spoon. Why a little spoon? He says, I'll tell you why. Since I've been a little kid, it's always been, you're invited to dinner, you sit for dinner, and the table is made up, okay? And then you have your, whatever it is, let's say your fish course first. I'm going to go like a Shabbos meal. You eat gefilte fish. I know Sfardim love the gefilte fish. That's, no? The two of them are looking at me, what? What's gefilte fish? Like a Moroccan gefilte fish, okay? And then you have the soup, and then you have the main course. After they take away the main course, they put a little spoon there. What is that little spoon for? Dessert. That little spoon always represented to me, she tells the rabbi, that something good is coming along. That spoon always reminded me that the meal is not over, but that something special is coming. And that spoon has always been the driving force of my life. To know that no matter where I am here, no matter what my station is, I know something better is coming up. So when I was a little girl, and I would think of the dessert spoon, I would think to myself, as good as it is in primary school, I can't wait to get into high school. I know it's going to be better. And when I got into high school, I said, I can't wait because I'm going to go on to college and get my degree. And then when I met the love of my life, I said, see this, but it's not it. I know we're going to have a family. And when my children were born, I always kept telling myself, you know what? Think this is good? Wait, there's always dessert. Something better is going, something better. And that's how I lived my life. And I want that when I pass away, I want to know that there's a spoon in my coffin with me because something better is coming up. Whatever it is, heaven, super heaven, glorious, whatever it's going to be, something better is coming up. The rabbi listened, and I heard this story. I get chills thinking about this because most of us go to exactly the opposite. We always complain, complain about this, complain about that. And this woman had such a positive, tremendous attitude towards it. So this is what Jacob is saying. You know what? There was a difficulty, overcome it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, for 17 years, Jacob could exhale and breathe and live a wonderful life surrounded by his children and grandchildren and everybody there, there. Okay, so that was number one reason why commentators say why he lived his best life. The second one is he was always very worried that, what's going to happen is that they're not going to be able to withstand this test of Egypt. Because you come into Egypt, you're living in a very foreign country, the culture is very different, and we see here when we're a small minority and we integrate into the country. Now in Eastern Europe, when we lived there, we had these little shtetl. It was much easier keeping Judaism in a little shtetl. Because you know what? You knew of nothing else. When you came into the big city, then you saw all of these people living like this. It was harder to keep you on the farm. Once you see already the big city, who wants to be in the shtetl? So he was very, very worried that his kids and his grandkids are going to completely assimilate. I don't have to tell you, because when we came to this country in between the years of 1880 and 1920, more than 2 million Jews emigrated to the United States. You go to Ellis Island, look up the records. They came in through Ellis Island, they came in through North Carolina. Some Jews came in through Seattle. I mean, there was Galveston. They came in through. But most of the Jews, the bulk of the Jews, came in through Ellis Island. And in Ellis Island, when you came on that boat, the key thing that you had to remember was one thing: America is the golden Medina. It's the golden land. What's going to separate America from Eastern Europe? Because here in America, there's no anti-Semitism. No one's going to chase us. Unlike in Russia or Ukraine or Poland or Latvia, Lithuania, Hungary, they were anti-Semites. Not in America. In America, they love us. They love the Jews here. And you come over the boat, and guess what? Here in America, all you got to do is bring a shovel and a pail. You scoop up the gold from the ground, and you put it in the pail. That's why it's called the golden Medina. You don't have to work. Everybody is going to be rich, and we're going to be rich here, and we're going to live, and it's going to be fantastic. The only thing is that when you come here, you got to be American. You got to be American. That's the only thing. So what people did, unfortunately, is took their talises, their tefillin, they threw them overboard, into the Hudson River. Because in America, there's no restriction. You could live free. Now, it was interesting because the bulk of people that came, a lot of them were Eastern European. Eastern European were very different than the first emigration to New York, which was German Jews. German Jews were very different than the Eastern European Jews. They were already very much assimilated, and they were hotty-totty, Jews, and they lived already in Midtown, Upper West Side, and they were very, very, assimilated. The Eastern European Jews, so they didn't want to have anything to do with them. If you read the book Our Crowd, you will see this vast separation between the German emigration and the Eastern European emigration was big. So the Eastern Europeans wanted to be like the Germans. They wanted to be, a high-fluting society. So they gave up a lot of Judaism, unfortunately. So Jacob, 3,000 years ago, was afraid of the same thing. When it comes to Egypt, we're going to give it all up, and that's going to be it, and we're going to be finished. Okay, so the fact is that he lived 17 years, and he saw that Joseph and his sons were still committed. He was confident. That's why you'll notice something interesting. When we say Shema, this is maybe the most important prayer we have, in our liturgy, right? We say Shema. Our custom is we cover our eyes. We say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Stop. What's the next sentence we say? Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Liolam Va'ed. And we say it in an undertone. If you look in the Siddur, which we used to have a Siddur, but I don't know what happened to our Siddurs, but when you look in the Siddur, it'll say in an undertone. Why in an undertone? Why do you say it in an undertone? Who's an undertone? So, if you look, where does Shema come from? Shema comes from the Torah. It's in Parshas Veschanon. If I remember completely, here it is. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The next verse is V'yahavtas Hashem Elokecha. No Baruch Shem Kavod. Where does the Baruch Shem Kavod, the sentence, come? So the Medrash tells us that when Jacob was laying on his deathbed, he would ask his sons, "Hey, do you guys believe?" And they all said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokecha. And then he said, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso. We're great. I'm so thrilled that all of them are. So now, Jacob said it. Moses didn't say it. Right? In the Torah, Moses left out Baruch Shem. So therefore, we say it in an undertone. To please both. Say it. It's like always in Judaism, like the crooked mezuzah. The mezuzah lays on an angle. Why lays on an angle? Because we don't know. Should it lay horizontal? Should it lay vertical? So we make everybody happy. We put it on an angle. So that's why you say Baruch Shem quietly. But Jacob was very, very happy that his sons and his family were committed. And they lived in Goshen, in a separate province. And then he gathers his sons and he says, okay, I want to tell you what's going to happen to you at the end of days. And all of a sudden he gets a blank. He blanks out. He can't, it doesn't, so the Torah tells us, because Jacob wanted to tell them what's going to happen in the future. The future is not going to be so vayayay for the Jews. You may have realized that. So God said, better not tell it to them, but instead bless them. Okay. So he starts to bless them. The first one he blesses is, who's the oldest son? Reuben. Reuben says, Reuben, you could have been. You could have been. You were my first one. You were the power of my strength. You could have been. You could have had everything. But you're impetuous. You make decisions too quickly. You don't think it through. You don't see the ramifications. What was Reuben's big sin? Anybody know what Reuben's big sin was? That he lost both the title of the firstborn and lost the title of everything. What was his big sin? When he what? He moved his father's bed. Okay? What did he do? He moved his father's bed. What does that mean, he moved his father's bed? This is what happened. Jacob had 4 wives. Now, one of the things in the Torah is, if you're going to marry anybody, they have certain rights that you are obligated to them. And one of them is intimacy. Every woman has a right to have intimacy with the husband, right? Yeah, love. So he had to, the 4 women, he had to get, but his bed was placed in Rachel's tent because she was number 1 wife. Everybody realized that. Even Leah realized, you know what? Number 1 wife, I get it. Fine, good, whatever it's going to be. Okay? What happens to Rachel? She dies. So then Jacob took his bed and he put it into Bilhah. Bilhah was Rachel's maidservant, right? But it was also a wife of Jacob's. He put it in Bilhah's tent. This Reuben could not abide. He could not abide. The fact that his mother was second fiddle, he could take. That's what your father wanted. But now you would humiliate my mother by taking your bed and putting it into the maid's tent, into Bilhah's tent. This he could not abide. So he went on his own and he took Jacob's bed and he moved it into his mother's bed tent. That's the way it is. His father got angry with him and said, you disturbed my bed, and this is the reason why you're impetuous. You don't think it through. You don't have and forget it. You're not going to be. You're out. You're not going to be. You're a nice guy. You're going to get a piece of the land, but you're not going to be Mr. You should have been in charge. You're not going to be in charge. Okay, Reuben wasn't too happy with this outcome, but nonetheless, he's not going to argue. Fine, you're not happy. I at least as Reuben says, I did the right thing. In my mind, I did the right thing. I stood up for my mother's honor. Okay. Then he gets to Shimon and Levi. Shimon and Levi, Achimheim. Shimon and Levi, the next two, you are 2 brothers. Oh, you 2 guys. Oh, you 2 bandits. What you are. And they're sitting there, they're waiting for the blessing. And he says to them, you know what? What did you do to me? Ba'apam harguish. You guys, you killed the whole town. And you brought dishonor to us. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to separate you all over Israel. When you come into Israel, you're not going to live together. You'll be separated in Israel because you can't be together. The 2 of you can't be together. Your energy is too strong, and you're too vigilant, and you're too violent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate you. So Levi, we know how he gets separated. How does Levi become separated? Because he makes him the Kohanim and the Leviim. So they live all over the country. They don't have one dedicated piece of land. Everybody got a piece of land except for Levi. Come Shimon. If you notice, later on, Moses is going to do the same thing that Jacob does. Blesses everybody except for Shimon. He does not bless Shimon. Shimon doesn't get a piece of land. Moses is angry at him. Jacob is angry at this thing. He doesn't get a piece of land. So Joshua says to Judah, you know what, Judah? You're going to get a big piece of land. Take Shimon into your land. And that's what he does. Judah takes Shimon, and Shimon then becomes the teachers of Israel. The teachers. And where are teaching? All over the country. So they're spread. Shimon and Levi are spread throughout the entire country. They don't live in big clusters. So at first you think to yourself, you know what? This is a terrible punishment for them. They go, So so someone gave such I saw a commentary that did such a good job. Jay, see you later.
See you, sir.
Go Angels. Okay. Someone gave a great commentary. Everything is Hashgacha Pratis. Everything is divine providence. Why is it that Levi and Shimon are not really together? So if you want to say, look, it's dangerous for them to be together because they're such powerful individuals and they have such strong, energy, and together they can destroy people. Or what you do is, when you have some people with such passion, what you do is you spread them out over the country. Why? Not as a punishment. So they should influence other people with that passion. That's what you need. You need a guy like Shimon that has this incredible force of personality. You need a little bits in every community. You need to have a little bit of Shimons. Shimon's is going to be the one that's going to get up and is going to, be the forefront of every campaign. He's going to, he's going to be the teachers. He's going to instill in the children. So instead of it turning around and saying, "Oh, this is a curse," no, this is a blessing. Where instead of them all being in one area and having this incredibly dense force of Shimon living in one geographical area, you take a little bit of each and you spread them out all over the country. Everywhere you go, you have a little bits of Shimon, pieces of little Shimon, in order for them to influence the Jewish people and to give everyone an opportunity to receive some of that passion that Shimon has. I thought that was brilliant. So instead of turning it into a curse, you turn it into a blessing. Now, we know that many of us are nice people. And how do you get along? You go along to get along, but every once in a while you need to be Shimon. Every once in a while you need to have that passion. You need to have, you have to get up there. You need to be a vigilante, not to take matters in your own hand, but you got to do something extraordinary. And this is what Shimon and Levi represented. So Jacob tells them the same thing. You're going to be all over the country and you'll be spread. And here's something else. Or Rapam, cursed is your anger. I curse your anger because, they were very angry, like I mentioned before, they were passionate. They killed the whole town. Or Rapam ki osvev, because in your rage is intense. They have such intensity. They burn with such passion, these people. And your wrath for it is harsh. And that's why I'm going to separate you. And that's what I said. Someone again, the great thing about Judaism is that we've had 3,000 years that our greatest minds and the greatest scholars did what? They wrote. They thought and they wrote. They thought and they wrote. There was no country since the year 70 till 1948. Imagine all those years. We never had a country that we needed to administer to. So you had all like our favorite philosopher and codifier, Maimonides, right? Can imagine if he was elected to be the Secretary of Defense of Israel. You have to spend half his time being busy with this. Like this, he could write and this. So you have so many commentaries on the Torah. So someone says, look at this, look at this, look at this. Jacob did not curse them. He didn't say, Orata, you are cursed. What did he curse? Apam. He cursed their anger. Meaning that, calm down. Calm down. You know what? When you get angry, you go sit, slow down. Because, if you're always going to run after your anger and do the next thing that you think about when you're angry, what's going to happen? You are always going to be in a state of perpetual war. Because everybody's going to bug you. We're giving this class on Sunday mornings about relationships. So we've gone through empathy. You have to be empathetic. Number 2 is you have to be a good listener. This week we're going to be dealing with disagreements. Disagreements are part of life, my friends. I know we all like to get along and we're Americans and make peace, not war. We love it. We want it. But you know what? If there's people, there's going to be disagreements. And guess what? There's nothing like a familial disagreement, right? When there's a conflict between two parties, okay, you know what? You can't make a resolution. What do the two parties do? They go. But when there's a family fight, this lasts forever. Forever and ever there's a family fight things, right? She's dead to me, he's dead to me, they're dead to me, I'm dead to me. It's always the same thing. So here, Jacob curses their anger and says you got to be able to control it. It's good to have the passion. It's good to have the intensity in life. Too many people walk through life that are completely dispassionate. They have not, it's like life just passes by. like a passerby. Remember, I always tell the story. It's one of my favorite stories. Is in this very room, but we used to have a different setup. I used to sit there, and everybody was this way. Then they switched at us just to screw with us. That's the only reason. I don't know why I was. But I remember Mr. Johnson. If you remember, a couple of times, this wonderful African American older gentleman came over here. He came 2 times. The first time he came, he was sitting right here in the corner where Dave is sitting, and I was talking about this thing about how people just walk through life and they die early on, and he just piped up after the class like it said on the tombstone: lived to 65, died at 35. Okay, think about that. Lived to 65, died at 35. That one thing. That one statement summed up the whole class. He should have given the class. He should have given the class. He had this face of just wisdom, but not wisdom in a book. There are people that just have this wisdom from living. This was Mr. Johnson. He had this living. Just parenthetically, never judge a book by its cover. The next time he came around, he came up to me and he handed me an envelope. He said, "Rabbi, here, it's for your congregation." Oh, yes. I took it. I put it in my pocket over here. Forget about it. And when we left, I come out to my car. I take off my jacket. The envelope falls out. I pick it up. I thought $20, $30. 10 $100 bills. $1,000 in that envelope. I said, I hardly gave the guy a thank you. I said, I said, goodbye. Now I get out of my car. I start looking for him. I can't find him. I run inside the JCC, outside the JCC, in the parking lot, outside the park. I can't find this Mr. Johnson. I never saw him again. I have no idea what happened to him. An angel. 2 times he came into my life, and both times that my encounter with him made my life be better. Because the first time he taught me something great, and the second time he supported us. So wherever you are, Mr. Johnson, if you're here, if you're in heaven, you should know one thing: we'll never forget you in this class. You're always remembered. Always remembered. So what was it? What did he do? So when you have passion, it's great, and you have intensity, and you live life every single day. But with that intensity and with that passion, sometimes you lose perspective. You want everyone to be that way. You want everyone to fall. You want everyone to be as passionate as you. So Jacob tells him, slow down, calm down, take it easy, relax. Don't let your anger get the better of you. Don't let the passion get the better of you. Intensity is great, but when it burns too hot, it burns up. But then there's something else. The word apam that we're dealing with on page 277, if you want to follow along, or apam, cursed is your anger. The word for anger is af. But af can also mean your nose. In Hebrew, af can mean, it's ambiguous. It could mean anger. It could mean your nose.
Rabbi, excuse me, what page are you?
276. 276, if you look at verse number 7. Accursed is your rage. Now, what does af mean? That means that when cursed is your nose. What do you mean cursed is your nose? We understand what cursed is your anger, but what do you mean cursed is your nose? So we say, you know what? One of the ways that you can kill a person is a couple of different ways. Number 1 is you could physically kill them with a gun or a sword. That's right. Number 2 is you could kill them with gossip. By saying, this and this guy, you know what, he's a thief, or he's a no good Nick, or whatever it is. Okay, so we all know that you could kill someone with your mouth and gossip. Number 3 is you don't have to use your mouth. Like we'll play a game. Why don't you ask me, Helen, what I think of Jay? Ask me what I think of Jay. What do I think of Jay? What I did I say anything bad about Jay? Nothing. I did not say a word about Jay. What did I do? All I did is I sniveled with my nose. I went, that's it. Now I ask you, what do you think I think about Jay? What did the rabbis think about Jay? Doesn't like him. Did I say anything about Jay? When Jay confronts me, Rabbi, I heard that you disparaged me in class today. I said, what? I would never disparage you. Yes, someone asked me what you think about me, and the whole class says the rabbi doesn't like you, Jay. I didn't do anything. how I killed him was with my nose. I didn't say anything. I murdered him with my nose. Literally murdered him with my nose. All I did is I went, and that's it. And that's the killer. So he says, or apam, cursed is your nose. Because if you think to yourself that this is you need the chair?
Yeah.
I thought you were stealing the chair. I was going to call the JCC. Okay. Now when you think to yourself that, you know what, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't say anything. I understand I would never disparage anybody here in the room. But what did I do? All I did was, thumbs down. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. Or apam. Cursed is your nose, because with your nose you can kill people. It doesn't have to be, we have to give a long soliloquy how bad people are. With your nose you can do this. That's why we have to be extremely, extremely careful. Extremely careful that when we communicate, because communication is 30% verbal, 70% non-verbal. Okay? We all know that, right? When you're communicating with people, the best way is talking, but I told you, when I'm telling you something and I give you a lesson in life and you're sitting like this, what does this mean? Kishmir. Okay? You know what? For those that know what Kishmir means, kiss me. Okay? Kishmir. That's basically what you're saying. When you have your arms folded, I'm talking to my teenager and he's sitting like this, slouched in his chair like this, and his arms are like this, and I'm giving him a lesson in life, and he's sitting like this. You know how much of that lesson is being integrated in him? Gurnish. 0%. Why? Because communication is a lot non-verbal. When I'm standing at the door, when you come in and say, Rabbi, come in, and I'm standing at the door with my foot holding open the door, that's another message. What is that message? I'm out of here. The fact that you're calling me, Rabbi, the fact is that I'm not coming into the room, but I'm holding the door open with my foot, means that I'd rather be anywhere except standing here holding open the door, and you're not letting me do that. Even I don't say that, but that's another thing. When someone is doing that to you, you know that they're not interested in what you're saying. Can you tell me what time is it now in Borneo? Do you know what time is in Borneo, Rabbi? Okay, that's about as interested as I am in what you have to say to me at the thing. So, the same thing is true with the nose. That's why we need to be extremely careful of what we say, and not only of what we say, and how we act. Because when you're communicating to people, you have to be so in tune to what your message is to them. And if you want to be if you want to be clean or clear, both in the eyes of men, of people, I say. When I say men, I mean mankind. I don't mean only men, of mankind, and clean in the eyes of God, you have to be precise, because what you do and how you react is going to be interpreted by different people in different ways. Now, this leads to the last piece, to the last lesson here, and we're going to finish with this. After the father dies, okay, I want you to keep in mind what I just said to you before, that you have to be clear and unambiguous in things. Now, most of us are not that careful, to be honest, but you have to be always conscious of what you do, because it can be misinterpreted, especially if you're a leader, or if you have a position that you have not lordship, but you're trying to give over a message to everybody. You have to be precise and clear. Who was not? Joseph. Why? I'll tell you why. After the father dies, the brothers notice something, that he's not acting the same as he did. What do you mean he's not acting the same as he did? So the Talmud tells us, Rashi brings a commentary, that while the father was alive, he used to invite them for lunch. All kind of, come for lunch, come for dinner, hang around. As soon as the father died and they went to Israel to bury him, that was it. He didn't invite them anymore. Was not, no more. So commentary started to wonder, okay, why did he do this? So the first thing is, you figure, first of all, it's familial. Everybody knows. The parents are alive, the children are going to stick together. They're the glue. The parents are gone, everybody goes their own way. You have to make a special effort. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, fine. So be it. Number two is, Joseph was busy. I mean, he was a Wedding. So as long as his father was alive, he had the mitzvah of honoring your father and your mother. So you make an extra effort to honor your father, you honor your mother, etc. Okay? That's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is Joseph was he was uncomfortable. Why was he uncomfortable? Because when they used to eat together, the father sat him at the head of the table. Because he was the viceroy, and sat him at the head of the table. He had older brothers. Most of the brothers were older than him. Reuben was there, Shimon was there, Judah was there. So he felt very uncomfortable. Joseph was a humble guy, somewhat. He was a humble guy, so he felt uncomfortable. He didn't want to disturb anybody, so he decided, better everybody eat at home, and then, we'll get together for the holidays, for Hanukkah menorah lighting, downtown Cairo. We'll get together, okay, and that'll be our family gathering, okay, and the Seder. 2 times a year we'll gather together, okay, fine. But then there's another commentary which I'd mentioned on Shabbos, so I'm sorry for those that came on Shabbos, but I just want to repeat this because to me, it's such a tremendous insight. One of the commentaries said, no. I'll tell you what the reason is why the brothers thought that Joseph acted differently to them. Why? Because, now I want you to, like I said on Saturday, I want you to, in your mind, create a map. And the southern part is Egypt. Now you're walking up Egypt to the north, you get to Hebron, right? That's where Jacob is buried. So you're coming up the map to Hebron. Joseph, on the way back, should have done where? Should have gone south, right? Should have gone back to Egypt. He didn't. Joseph took a turn and continued north to Shechem. Shechem is a town that's north, but he didn't stop at Shechem either. He went all the way to Dosan. Why Dosan? So okay, but who's in Shul? Don't answer this. If you're in Shul on Shabbos, don't answer it, because now you know what Dosan is. Why did he go to Dosan? Because if you remember that when his father sent him to check on the brothers, way back when, in the early parts, he went to Shechem, but he couldn't find them in Shechem, so the man he met in the thing said they went to Dosan, so he went to Dosan. That's the last time he saw his brothers before he went to Dosan. So everybody's following him. Imagine the whole retinue, the whole crowd is following Joseph. He's in charge. They're all going down. They pass Shechem. His brother's wondering, what's going on over here? They pass Shechem. They come to Dosan. In Dosan, he goes to the place where they met him. And he goes to the pit. That very pit that he was thrown into. And Joseph goes alone. And he stands by the pit and he looks into the pit. And he's standing there for a few minutes, just standing by the pit. Now, Joseph, to his credit, went there to give a blessing. Like I mentioned, any time that a miracle happens to you, and you come to the same place, like God forbid, I mentioned before, like when you, like the people that were in Entebbe, that were captives in Entebbe, and they were saved, a miracle happened to them in Entebbe. If ever they go back to Entebbe, they have to make a special miracle. So that, that a great miracle happened to me in this place. Okay, so Joseph wanted to feel that, he's giving gratitude to Hashem for saving him, and now look at him now. So he went to the pit and he looked at the pit and he said, thank you Hashem for everything, the kindness you did to me and watching me all of these years, and thank you very much. But what did the brothers think? What do you think the brothers thought? When the brothers saw Joseph standing at the pit, and what did the pit represent to them? The last time they interacted before he left home, and they said, okay, now it's retribution time. As long as the father was alive, the father said to Joseph, please, don't do anything. Now that the father is dead, now it's payback time, baby. And that's why they thought to themselves, okay. And they went to him and they lied. They literally lied to Joseph, and they said to Joseph, your father begged, please forgive your brothers for the sin that they did to you, for what they did to you. They mistreated you. But please, I'm asking you as a father to please forgive them. So the brothers lied because the father never said this. The father never said to say this to Joseph. How do we know that? Because the father himself would have said it to Joseph. Jacob would have said, please do me a favor, forgive them. If they lied, okay, which is another discussion for another time when you're allowed to lie in Judaism. But we'll get to that at a different class. But then Joseph says to them, are you kidding me? I'm gonna take revenge on you? Why would I take revenge on you? You in your minds thought to do me harm. Hashem thought to do me good and brought me to this place, so I should be the sustainer for you and for your children and for all of us. So no matter what you thought, There's a different purpose. So you know what? Let bygones be bygones. Joseph forgave them, which is another wonderful, wonderful way in how, if you want to nurture relationships, you're going to have to deal with the question of forgiveness, which we will deal in class number 6 later on, not next week. Next week we're dealing with conflict. And I can't wait, because I have a lot of conflict in this, but to do this. So therefore you learn from this another incredible lesson. When you're in a position of leadership like Joseph could have been a little bit smarter and foreseen that when he was standing at the pit. Now I in my mind I have the picture of Joseph standing at the pit, and I could feel his overwhelming emotion, and I could feel the brothers' overwhelming humiliation. I mean, because he dragged them there, stands there, he's looking at the pit. This reminded them of an opportunity that they missed, that they could have saved him. And Joseph should have said to them at that time, listen, I want to tell you something. I know that I'm going to the pit, but it has nothing to do with you putting me in the pit. I just want to make the blessing, whatever it is. So another lesson in life is that when you are doing something, especially in a position of leadership, whether you're a teacher, a rabbi, a governor, whatever you are, everything that you do is being interpreted. You are on display. If you're an individual person, you're not go find God, do whatever you like. But if you're in a position of power, you have to remember that everything you say and everything you do and all of your actions are being judged and being seen by so many people. So you have to be clean from the eyes of Hashem, where he went, thank you Hashem, and from the eyes of the people, that you know what, you're not, God forbid, inferring something that is harmful to them. This is another lesson in life. Bottom line is like this. We learn from here a couple of different things from this whole story. Number one is being Baal Teshuvos. Number one is repenting. You did something wrong between you and Hashem. You can always say, Tzadka mimeni. She was more righteous than me, like Judah said about Tamar. So, you did something wrong. Tzadka mimeni, you could be a Baal Teshuvah. Then there's a whole concept of forgiveness. Joseph could have been so mean. Come and think about it for a second. No, he could have been bitter. Sold at 17 years old. No one came to look for him. No one came to search for him. No one did anything for him. No one, they forgot about him. For all he knew, they completely, Joseph is gone. It would have been very easy for him to turn into the most bitter, angry person. Today we would say he needed therapy. Joseph should have gone to therapy. You know what? I don't feel good. I'm angry. I'm this. I'm listless. I'm this. I'm this. I'm that. I'm all different kind of excuses. Joseph did not. Joseph rose to the occasion and said, you know what? I know you thought about something, but the situations were different. Let bygones be bygones and let's move on. And that is such an incredible, important lesson that Joseph did. And then as we spoke about in previous classes, that Joseph himself grew also from this arrogant kid that he was, with his illusions of grandeur, to the viceroy that was able to save Egypt, save Canaan, bring his family down, prosper in Egypt, all because he was able to understand that, you know what? Life is short. Life is short. And holding on to grudges is never healthy. It restricts all of the blood vessels that go to your heart. And the more grudges you have and the more angst you have, the less happy you're going to be. So let's bygones be bygones. Let's repair those relationships that we can repair. Let's move on in a happy, prosperous, confident way. And if we can do that, and if we can live that way, even though sometimes things may not always go the way we want them to go, but we'll live happier. And if you're happier, I'm telling you, if you're going to be happier, you're going to be healthier. And if you're healthier, you're going to be happier. And if you're going to be happier, you're going to have more friends. And everything is going to be, what do you call it, hunky-dory, thank you very much, and hunky-dory, and you're going to live a wonderful, wonderful life, and most important, you live a meaningful life. And if you do that, isn't this worth the price of the class? Mm-hmm. Yes. So thank you very much. All right. Now, that ends the story of the Jacobsons. Now you would think that all the drama was put into the first book. Wait till next week. Just when we think we can relax, the Sopranos are going to surprise us. Okay? So I want to give everybody, just give me 1 second. Let me say goodbye to the Facebook friends in the Facebook world. Thank you for checking in. It's always been a pleasure to talk to you. If you want to do me this favor, it's always good to hear from you. So give me a like, share this class, do whatever you have to do to get the word out, and we'll see you next week.